Good. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 71 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. I'm in my bedroom. Kristen's out there. Wife's out there making noise, so I have been shunned to the bedroom. But I'm here with my brothers, Christian and Matt, to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Christian, say hello.
Hello.
That's Christian. He's in pain, but we're going to try to bring his energy up before we get things going here because, we need him. We need him to be on his game.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to do this without me?
Very true. Very true. Matt, why don't you say hello so people can see your pretty face?
Hello, so people can see my pretty face.
Okay. That's good. He's so clever. He's so clever, that Matthew.
Every week, he's just so funny.
Yeah, I know.
It's always a surprise.
I know. It's amazing. Christian has our trivia question. He's prepared this week, and we're ready to get this thing rolling. All right, ready, guys?
I'm ready.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 71 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel, and I'm here with my brothers Christian and Matt to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Christian, how are you doing today?
I'm just dandy, Dave, trying to power through another day. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Things are going well. We got up, went to Easter service this morning at a Catholic church, which is always, weird and interesting because we are not Catholics, and so they do. They got like incense going. They don't put everything on the program, so you don't know what to say in certain instances. So it's always an experience. But other than that, things are good. Went out and got brunch at Whole Foods. So, we're just typical millennials, just living life. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I had a great week. I did well on an econ test, which almost never happens.
All right.
And then in the sports world, Sixers just won their 10th straight. Man City killing it. They have the opportunity. I think this could be like the best 10-day stretch as a City fan imaginable if we beat Liverpool and then, beat United at home and get to celebrate in their face. So big day coming, or a couple of big days coming.
Yeah, big week. It could be great or it could be terrible. We will be following with bated breath. Christian, do you have our trivia question for this week?
I do, but bated breath is a weird phrase.
Yeah,
I know it is one, but I like how you're mixing it up this week a little bit more. It's not like you're reading out of a book like you usually are.
Recording in a different location, just, I'm flowing differently. All right, what's
new location, new Dave. Okay, so trivia question this week. What is the biggest aggregate win over the two legs of a Premier League season against the same team?
All right. Cool. Premier League. So since 1992?
There's actually two. There's two. It's the same amount, like aggregate score, but it happened twice.
Okay.
So you have multiple guesses.
Since 1992?
Yes.
And are you looking for the score line? Or are you looking for the
score
difference?
Line? You can try and score line.
Okay. All right. So listeners, you will think on that. We will think on it, and we will get back to you. Before we get into our topics, I wanted to give a quick plug for StadiumScene.com. So Stadium Scene is a website where you go and you can check out all the things to do around a stadium before you attend a match or a game in the U.S. So it's not even just soccer specific. They have other things to do for basketball or soccer stadiums and all of that. And so they have parking, they have bars and restaurants, and they have other things to do. So you definitely want to go check out Stadium Scene before you go to any game that you're going to in the U.S. In addition to the stadium sort of concept, they've partnered with content creators on stadiumscene.tv with content creators like us, but they also do other sports like hockey, basketball, and so on and so forth. They have podcasts, videos, blog posts, all different kinds of things. So you want to go check them out. They have all different kinds of really cool and interesting content, and they're growing like crazy. They're always adding new partners. So go check them out and, see if you like what they got going on.
They have other content creators other than us? I didn't even know there were other content creators. I thought we were the one and only.
Yes, we are. In your mind, that is true. With that, let's get into our topics for this week. So first up, we want to talk about West Brom. So West Brom is in just a really rough financial position, or really rough position in the table. But on top of it, they're in serious financial trouble, apparently. Their chief executive came out and said that they can't pay wages. They're struggling to pay wages just for the club. Christian, your thoughts on hearing, this club who has been in the Premier League for a number of seasons, running into these financial troubles.
What the hell is going on behind the scenes at West Brom? How can a team that's been in the Premier League this long and now revenues are higher than ever be in this position? Whoever is behind the scenes in charge of the books, in charge of all the decision making financially at the club, needs to be let go. They need to restart and just figure this out, because they're in real danger of becoming a Portsmouth, where they are dropping down hard to the 4th division, and they're going to have to build themselves back up. And that takes a lot out of a club, and people kind of forget. Like, people probably already forget Portsmouth. A lot of people do. So, and they were a team that was challenging in the FA Cup final a year or two before it all happened to them.
Yeah, they
Similar
won
to Rangers. Yeah.
Well, Rangers is a different situation, right? Rangers was forced relegation all the way down. I mean, yeah, they ran into financial trouble, but then they were forced down. Whereas Portsmouth wasn't necessarily forced immediately down to the 4th division. But yeah, you're spot on there, Matt. I know you have this weird, unexplained hatred for West Brom. So, what are your thoughts upon hearing all of this?
Yeah, I can't help but feel somewhat responsible for their demise, because I've just been wishing it on them for years. Just like, I hate West Brom. They're gonna just like wishing for their relegation, and for them to be a Portsmouth. So Mark Jenkins, their new CEO, it said he returned back to the club. What was he before?
I don't know. I can't say I know the inner workings of West Brom too much. Christian, do you happen to know?
Yeah, because I'm just an expert on that stuff.
Yeah. So we're not sure, man.
I saw like the article said like he's back at West Brom, and he was just like so appalled at what happened over like the last. Who was the other two? They got forced out. Martin Goodman and John Williams, the chairman and other CEO. So those two guys were forced out, and like they just left the club like with no money to pay any players for wages. And I think that's a horrible spot for a new CEO to come in and look at. But yeah, and especially like Christian said, I don't know how with like all the money that's coming into the Premier League they'd let this happen.
Yeah, and there's another thing where like I don't think they've signed like the most high profile players or things like that. Like I could see this happening at Stoke, because Stoke went out and bought a bunch of those kind of sexy young, with Bojan or Shaqiri or some of those attackers. I mean, I feel like West Brom hasn't even gone out and spent a ton of money, so I'm not even understanding how this is even happening. Christian, thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't call them sexy. I don't know what you're into, but that's not the word I use to describe these players. But the Boyans and players like that, I understand. Like, yeah, Stoke should be in more trouble, especially in the position that they're in now. But they're smart about what they're doing with their money.
Yeah, I'm not saying Stoke should be. Yeah, I'm not saying Stoke should be in trouble.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand. I'm going to get there. I was going to move.
Okay.
I was just transitioning a little bit.
Okay.
But you didn't give me time to finish, so I guess now it's broken, and I guess I'll just go right into West Brom. So West Brom, I feel like I agree with you in the fact that like Solomon Rondon was one of their biggest signings, and people are just like, okay, who, what? He's not one of the big names. He is a player who does play internationally. He's a solid striker, but players like that, players like Morrison, I think is another one. They've signed players who are talented, but aren't going to light up the world. I mean, they had Gareth Barry a couple years ago. Like, they have players like this who play their role, but aren't going to be getting the highest wages. And for a team in the Premier League to be in financial trouble, you really have to be making mistakes. And I don't know what they're possibly spending on, because you don't see them building stadium. You don't see them really in any type of situation where they should be spending more than they're bringing in at the moment.
Matt, anything else you want to add in closing here?
Well, they got what's his name from PSG, Kryczałek, or I don't know how to pronounce it.
Krakowiak.
Yeah. Kryczałek. So the American pronunciation. I mean, that's a huge, like, high-profile player coming from PSG right to West Brom. So I think, and I like actually a pretty like sought-after like prospect coming up when he went to West Brom. So I think like those are two like pretty solid signings, but I still don't understand how you leave your club in this financial trouble.
Yeah, and he's a somewhat high-profile signing, but I mean, their transfer record fee is £15 million, which I mean, it's a lot in the everyday sort of standard, but in the world soccer economy, £15 million for a record signing is not that much, and they haven't spent a ton on other players, and so maybe it is just the wages have gotten out of control because they're not spending a ton on transfers, but it's just not making sense to me. And, I don't wish ill will on anyone. And so hopefully, West Brom doesn't pull a Portsmouth, but, it looks like they're almost certain to go down, right? Is there any way that they don't go down, Christian?
Absolutely not. But just another point on that is I don't think I've seen a single player develop through a West Brom system and then being sold for financial gain or any type of situation where that's happened through their club. So other than the revenues that they're getting and maybe some players that they're selling off every once in a while, I don't know where they're going to be making money and where they're spending all this money. I really am just confused as to what's going on there.
Me too. So we'll be following that through. But let's change topics a little bit here and talk about some changes that were announced that are going to be implemented next season for the Champions League and Europa League. And so there's a bunch of little rule changes that are happening next year. One of the two that I kind of wanted to highlight here that I think are most interesting are that in the final of both the Champions League and Europa League, 23 players can be included on a roster. Normally there's 18 players on a roster, so now coaches have 12 players to choose from to make substitutions and things like that. They're still restricted to 3 subs per match and then 1 additional one in extra time. But there's that. And then the other one is that players are no longer going to be cup tied. So Matt, gave the example before we hit record here that Aubameyang played for Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League before the season started, or before he transferred to Arsenal, but because of that, he can't play for Arsenal now in the Europa League. But that is no longer going to be the case. Matt, your thoughts upon hearing these changes? Are you okay with changes being made like this?
Yeah, I'm fine with these changes. I don't necessarily love or hate the final adding 12 subs on the bench. I think managers know, with 7 players, who's going to get in the game. I don't think those next 5 players are necessarily going to even get in the game. I think managers, because they go the entire season with 7 on the bench, so they're pretty good at knowing their substitutes and what situations they're going to be in, and especially it only being for the final. I think it's just kind of letting more players be on the bench. So I'm not too for or against that. I love that, when you get transferred, you can play in Europa League and Champions League now, because it's like any other tournament or any other sport. If you're traded, you can always play against your team. So I think it's and in the Premier League, you get transferred, you get play against your team after towards the end of August. There's players that play and then move and then play against their club. So I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea. And also one of the other ones I don't think you highlighted was in extra time. You get a 4 sub now in elimination games, in knockout games.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge one.
Yeah, so that was a FIFA rule change a couple of years ago, but maybe I think because of the Champions League, the way that they operate, it's every 3-year cycle they kind of implement new rules, and so I think that was implemented by FIFA last year, but it hasn't taken effect into the Champions League yet. So,
okay.
Yeah, but I think with the substitutions, the best managers are the ones who can strategically use things the best, and so giving the best managers extra subs, I think does enable them to do more, and I think the better managers will make more use of the 23 players. Christian, your thoughts upon these rule changes?
Yeah, it looks like they're just following the World Cup model in that regard, because you have 23-man roster you bring internationally for the big tournaments pretty much in every case, and you have that whole roster to choose from in every single game. I like that idea, and I think it is going to benefit the game completely in finals, because tactically you may be down a goal and you want to send on 3 strikers. Now you can have them and they're not taking up roster spots being on the bench, where you have a defender, an extra goalkeeper, who are there in case of injury or in case of a certain situation that may arise, maybe sending off that they have to bring on an extra defender. You actually can have more players in each position if necessary to bring on at any time, which I think is going to be really, really utilized by some of the top managers and top clubs, because they have such quality all around. Some of the other rule changes, sorry, I just completely forgot
Cup
the point
ties.
that I was going to make. The cup tie one, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
The cup ties, I'm a little back and forth on this one. I think it can be good and it can be bad. Players like Coutinho who leave in the middle of the year, you kind of had a feeling that might happen, and it may have affected him early in the season, and he may have been playing a certain – like, I think players may not be fully committed if they think, hey, I'm leaving in January, because you do know. I feel like these players, even outside the transfer window, know that when they're going to leave. They are in talks with the clubs behind the scenes, outside of the windows. They kind of have an idea when they might be leaving, and that will affect their performances. And they'll just say, hey, like, I don't need to play here. Like, I don't need to play well because I'm going to be representing a different club in this competition later on. I think that is a big impact. And I understand from another point of view that it affects players who don't know and end up getting transferred last minute. But if the club is not in that competition anymore, I understand, like Aubameyang, saying Dortmund weren't in the Europa League when he left them. So I don't know why he's not able to play for Arsenal now. I think that's a ridiculous rule. But if you're still in that competition, I understand why you wouldn't be allowed to play.
But what about, so in your case, you're saying that the cup tie rule exists to punish players or try to prevent them from underperforming with a team that they're on currently if they know that they're going to move? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
But if they no longer will have that punishment and they know that they can move and play for their other team, don't you think they'd give more their all or be more likely to want to play for the team that they're currently on if they can play in the future?
I mean, it's possible. Yeah, but you don't know how certain players are going to react in that situation. And I know that could happen in the current system anyway because they don't want to be there. Like you saw with Alexis Sanchez, he wasn't playing at a high level because he didn't want to be there anymore. But it just depends on a player's mentality, so you can get that from either circumstance.
Yeah. What's his excuse now?
Yeah, I was going to say, still not playing at a high level.
I mean, he had an assist and a goal yesterday.
Yeah, but generally speaking, he hasn't played great. And it was, Swansea hasn't been exactly on fire this year, although they have been better under Carvalho.
Carvalho.
There you go. No, not Carvalho.
Are you sure?
I don't think there's a yo at the end of it. I thought it was just Carvalho. Whatever. All right. Because Carvalho, wasn't he the center back for Chelsea?
I think it's just a different Carvalho. I thought so.
Matt, care to weigh in here?
I know Ricardo Carvalho played for Chelsea, Portuguese center back.
Yes. Okay. So
that's about it.
We'll double check on that and get back to you.
And that person exists.
Yes. We'll double check on that and get back to you, listeners. For me, I mean, I think I like the 23-player thing in finals. Yeah, if anything, I think it would be better if you extended it. I think it would be more interesting if you had it, for all the knockout round games or something. I don't know. I think it would just add a different dynamic to the sport. So I don't know. That may be a bit much, but I'm curious about that one. And the cup tie thing, I really don't care one way or another. I think it's fine. So I think it's fine if players play for a different team. Matt brought up a good point. I mean, if players transferred, they're no longer under that that team. So yeah, Christian.
His name is Carlos Carvalho.
Okay, so I was right. Matt, something else to add in closing?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, like, I don't know, like players 19 through 23, I think even in all the big clubs, like there's such a huge drop off. Like even Man City, Liverpool, like think of your 19 through 23 players. Even Barcelona, there's a huge drop off. I don't think those clubs are really going to benefit from that. And also, I would say,
Okay,
Christian
so
said something.
While you think,
okay. So the transfers, like I don't know if these players know where they're going. You know how many clubs like these players are linked to? It's absurd. Like Man City's pretty much guaranteed a player every week, and then they end up not being on Man City. Like Alexis was supposed to go there. He's supposed to go to a couple places. He was supposed to go to Bayern. He's supposed to go to City, and then he ends up at United. So I don't think that's like thinking like, oh, I'm going to screw Arsenal over in the Champions League and then go play for United.
Yeah, I think
the transfers break down so easy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But regarding the 19 through 23, I'm not saying quality-wise that's the case. There's definitely a drop-off towards the end of rosters. I'm not saying that. But what Christian brought up, and I agree with, is that you can have different positions and you just have more strikers or more defenders or just a wider array of players that, can serve different purposes. And so given the situation in the game, you can then choose the proper player to address that situation that you're trying to exploit. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Christian, anything else you wanted to add just in closing?
Nope.
So that brings us to the end of our first segment. You're going to hear a little bit of music, and we will talk to you in our second segment soon. Talk to you soon. Good stuff, guys.
Oh my God, I'm in pain.
I don't know if it was something was like clicking or rubbing, and I actually don't think it was Christian this time. I think Matt is something. Do you have your cord, your headphone cord? Is it going across your front or no? I think it may have been hitting.
Is it going across your back?
The mic a little bit.
Let me put it behind my back. The cord.
There you go. Okay. And Christian, yours was rubbing a little bit, but not too bad. Given you have a beard and given how it's been in the past, so good job.
Yeah, can you shave that beard next time?
Well, yeah, what the fuck is that?
Just trim that up.
No, just shave the one side, just so the mic doesn't rub against it. What do you mean, what the fuck is that? Your mic rubs against the beard. That's pretty self-explanatory.
No, it does not.
Matt?
It's down here.
Matt, don't do that. That is annoying. Christian, did you hear what Matt just did?
No.
Should I do it again?
Yes.
Am I supposed to hear something?
Do you really not hear that?
No.
Okay. Well, whatever that is exactly what you sound like. Yeah, all the time. Okay. This is why.
Good job, Christian.
Like
April Fools.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to throw in We Are the Apple of podcasts at some point because I've been waiting for the opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to our second segment. Before we get into things, this week I came across a really cool, interesting, different podcast. I just wanted to plug real quick. It's called Inside the 18. It's a podcast, but it's two goalkeepers, and it kind of talks about soccer and training and things like that from a goalkeeper's perspective. It was just really, really fascinating and interesting kind of look and take on soccer. So we'll link to that in the show notes. You should go check them out. With that, let's get into our topics for our second segment. Recently, Dele Alli was benched by Gareth Southgate and kind of said that he needs to grow up and kind of mature. Mauricio Pochettino, Dele Alli's manager for Tottenham, then came to his defense and said basically he's a 21-year-old. He's got way too much pressure being heaped on him, and it's not really fair. Christian, where do you stand on the Dele Alli kind of debate here?
Well, today changed my perspective a little bit, but he has been completely underperforming this season. Just blatantly compared to last year, he has dropped off significantly. And I know that's a lot of pressure, and it's not really fair to him to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, to have the weight of the country and England, especially over anyone, to have that pressure on your shoulders. But yeah, he has been underperforming. And today against Chelsea, he was fantastic. I mean, in the first half, he was giving the ball away. The commentators were ripping into him, just classic English commentary on their own players. But he played very, very well in the second half and is a key factor for why they won that game today and showed what he really can do in the long run.
But he's a 21-year-old, right? So this is what happens with young players, right?
Yeah, they're not going to have that consistency until they're 24, 25, 26. That's just how young players are. And he's got another couple of years. In the next World Cup, he's going to be very good as long as he continues to progress the way that he has in the past. But right now, it's not fair to put that pressure on him. And I don't know if he should be starting for the World Cup team. He's going to obviously be there, and he'll be an impact player. But maybe right now he's not a starter, and he's just someone who comes off the bench to provide something different.
So you kind of more agree with Pochettino here in saying that it's unfair to put these expectations on him.
Yes, but he has underperformed as well.
Okay, fair enough. But is it Okay, all right, we'll come back.
Yes.
Let's get Matt's thoughts here. Matt, what do you think about the Southgate versus Pochettino expectations for Dele Alli?
Screw Pochettino. Literally last week, he said he was the best 21-year-old. He said, "Name me a better 21-year-old than Dele Alli in the world." It's like, what are you talking about? The expectations are too high. You literally just said that. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, the expectations, when he's putting those pressures on him as well. Also, like, Dele Alli, I think he's good. I don't think he's going to be like the savior of England. I think he's a good player. I think he's a great player for Tottenham. But I think his hype got skewed by what position he's listed as and the style he plays, because he gets a lot of goals and assists, but he's basically a forward. So I think that's what blew him up, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's gonna be scoring all these goals and assists from the midfield." And like, so all these like comparisons to Gerrard and Scholes and all these like legendary English midfielders through like however old he was, and like that's where the expectations and like comparisons really came from. So I think that was just like a little unfair.
Okay, so it was unrealistic expectations, though. So again, I don't think he's underperforming. I mean, I think he's just a normal 21-year-old. I think he goes through periods of good form and poor form, and this is just what you expect from young players. I mean, I think he has the talent to perform better, but I don't think he's necessarily, he's not living up to hitting, 100% every single game. But like you said, Christian, he's not going to do that until he's 24 or 25. I mean, so I think it's unrealistic for people to expect him to be that way. And I think it's completely fair of Southgate to bench him and to say he needs to do better. And I also think it's completely fair for Pochettino to say expectations are too high. But Matt, you brought up a good point. Pochettino basically fed those expectations by saying he's the best 21-year-old in the world. So, I mean, I think everybody's kind of right here, and I can kind of understand everyone's viewpoint. Christian, something else to add?
Yeah, Ali is a very talented player, and he built those expectations on himself by how well he was performing last season. His relationship with Kane was absolutely electric during that season, and this year he has taken a step back. And I understand there's a consistency aspect, but on the whole of the season, I would say it's been too long of a gap between his consistency levels. Like, last year, he played the entire season very, very solid. He didn't really have a drop-off at all. This year, it's been almost the whole year he's had a drop-off. It's not really come in waves. So he has taken a step back, in my opinion. But over the long haul, we've seen what he can do. And players, tactical analysis from other coaches and teams, they may have figured him out a little bit more. But as he gets older, he's going to learn the way that most players do, how to take advantage of players who mark him or have a tactical advantage on them. He's just going to develop more. And at 21 years old, you're not going to have that aspect of your game figured out.
Fair enough. Matt, anything else you want to add about Dele Alli in closing?
I don't know about expectation. I just think as a professional athlete, and especially the level he's at, like, you can't run from expectations. I think they're just going to be put on you no matter what. And yeah, like Pulisic, like the expectations are thrown on him, but he always performs for the national team. So I think it just like, it might be unfair, but you just have to deal with that as a professional athlete.
Yeah, it's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Liverpool and United, who are set to meet apparently at Michigan Stadium this summer. So, Christian, what's up? What is that?
I was just showing the people. There's a picture that I was just sent that is Dele Alli and all the Chelsea fans giving him the finger background.
Nice. All right. Well, since we've already broken up a little bit, so we had a listener comment here, or a viewer comment from Bacon Nuts. He said, "Which team basically has the best young players at the moment?" I assume in the Premier League. So, Matt, you want to give your thoughts on that perspective? Which team kind of has the best young players?
The best young players. So, I think Sané is going to be the best player in the league. Sané and Martial, I'll give United their props. I think those two are going to take over the league in a couple of years.
You think Martial, really?
If he's given a chance to play,
okay.
Depending on whatever Mourinho's tenure is. I think those two are the most talented. I think City, with like Jesus, Sané, Phil Foden, England's best up-and-coming player, I think they have, and like the money to buy, like, more youth. I think City probably has the advantage with youth and up and coming. And Pep actually plays his youth, unlike Mourinho.
Yeah, no, I'd actually probably agree. City has a bunch of talented young players, and Pep has shown a commitment to playing youth. So I'd probably go with that as well. Christian, thoughts?
Interesting. I would say City have the best young players who are making an impact right now. But just because I follow it, I've seen all the U17s, the U18s that Gerrard is working with at Liverpool, and they're going to be impactful. This Brian Brewster striker is incredibly talented. Ben Woodburn was scoring at 16 years old. He's out on loan. And Marco Grujic is another one who I think he's won 11 of 12 at Cardiff since he transferred there for his loan. These players are going to be impactful, and they're all under 20 years old. And I know it's hard to say right now, but there's a difference between the ones that are 20, 21, 22 that are making an impact at City right now and the players who are going to be making an impact in 2 to 3 years. So it's hard to really say. I think City have the players right now who are playing. Liverpool have the best young players who are coming up.
Yeah, but it's kind of been proven that success at U17 doesn't always translate well to the professional level, but success at U20 or right around that 20 years old range translates a little bit better. So I know I'm a Liverpool fan. I certainly hope Liverpool, youth develops and continues to develop and all of that. But, just statistically and historically speaking, it's not always the case. So,
I know Foden at City is a freak of nature talent. That's what Pep has been saying. But Pep built him up by saying he is an Iniesta level talent. That is so much pressure on his shoulders that I don't know how he's going to react to that.
Fair enough. So Bacon Nuts agrees with the City comment. So hopefully, that you like that little addition here. So getting back to the topic we were talking about before. So Liverpool and United are set to meet at Michigan Stadium this summer in the United States. Christian, what are your thoughts on, actually, let's go to Matt first. Matt, what are your thoughts on these, last year we saw it in Miami with Barcelona and Real Madrid playing El Clasico, these huge derby matches being played outside of the league. Do you like it in other countries? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I like it, especially here where we pretty much only care about the big teams and like the rivalries. I think United and Liverpool at Michigan Stadium, what was that hold? 110, 115,000?
107, but yeah, or whatever. It's a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Who played there a couple of years? Was it United, Real Madrid, and they completely sold out?
Yes.
So I love it. I mean, it brings the fans here. I don't know if it's beneficial for the teams, though. I like to see them playing like outside of, their like a Real Madrid United game. I would like better than United Liverpool. I just don't think it like necessarily gives like the atmosphere of, playing in England and like the significance of that over there.
So you think it's almost like a dulled down, watered down version of the real game?
Yeah, and it's just like for the American fans, it seems like.
Yeah, it's just a money grab. Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
I love the idea of doing this. I think that there's a lot of people who aren't going to be able to see them in a real competitive game who want to see this type of atmosphere. There's still that hatred. There's still that passion between teams like this that you're not going to get in. I mean, we get it in other sports, but I think there's a different feel to it in soccer, and especially in the European, just the history between these teams. And I understand it's not a competitive game, and a lot of the times they're not playing their star players, but they're going to be like, it's going to be heated. It's going to be trying to win because of who they're playing. And people in America, people in Asia, when they get to see these teams play, who they support, who they love, and they never actually get to go see it in person in England, that's huge. And I think it is obviously a marketing ploy. They're doing it to make money, but the fans want that. This is what they want, and it's not anything bad. I think it's something great that you get to experience.
But we're coming at it from a world view perspective, right? These teams they're from Manchester and Liverpool. The Manchester and Liverpool fans, arguably, are, I don't want to say are better, but they're just closer to the situation. And does this water down, that rivalry in any way? So you don't think so in any way, Christian?
I mean, it maybe waters down the rivalry in terms of fan support in the stadium and the types of chants that are going to be made. That's obviously going to be different because they're in a different place. They don't know all that stuff. but you still get the passion and the hatred for each other. I hate United, so I understand, and I know a lot of people feel the same way who aren't from Liverpool.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Matt, anything you wanted to add here in closing?
Nah.
Okay, I don't love this. I don't love this. I skew more towards Matt's view of let other big brands play that don't compete all the time in league. And you know, I would rather see you know, Barcelona versus Liverpool match or something like that, rather than these teams that play twice a year, are incredibly heated, long-term rivals. And, you know, I think there's almost a sacredness of them playing in the league. And so to do it outside of there, I think is, I don't know, is
I mean, they
taking
play in cups,
away.
they play in Europe against each other. So, I mean, they're playing outside of the league as well.
Yeah, but they're playing in their home stadiums for those matches.
Okay. But
So
this is reaching your fans that are all over the world.
But are the fans entitled? And so you're saying you think the fans are entitled to that? Okay, and I don't know if they necessarily are. So I think that's where we just disagree here.
People can't afford to go and take trips to Europe, and this is their chance to actually witness a team playing against a rival.
Yeah, but
you still have to fly to Michigan if you like. That's only for me.
Okay, but they go to different places every single year.
For me, this is just straight up a money-making scheme, and I don't think it's much more than that. I don't think this is out of the kindness of their heart that they are doing this for their American fans or anything like that. So that's kind of where I stand on the issue. But let's table it for now, and let's talk about our final topic we want to get to in this section. Wanted to talk about Carlos Tevez. Did the most Carlos Tevez thing possible. He visited his half-brother in prison, decided to play a pickup match, and got injured playing a pickup match with prisoners. So, just the most Carlos Tevez thing ever. Christian, what are your thoughts upon hearing this?
What? I mean, I'm sitting here saying, okay, yeah, that sounds about right, which is probably something I shouldn't be saying about a professional soccer player. But this is Carlos Tevez we're talking about, and this is pretty much what sums him up as a person. I mean, it's very great for him to have gone to the jail to visit his half-brother, but to get involved in a soccer game during the middle of his season, why? Like, I understand if you're like kicking the ball around, having fun, but as you and I talked about yesterday, this was a heated, like, hard tackling real game that they took it as. And look what happened to him. All I picture is the longest yard and like people going and playing in the mud in the courtyard or whatever. What is it called? Is that what it's called?
Prison yard, I think.
Prison
I don't
yard,
know.
maybe. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I haven't been. Maybe I'll go sometime. So yeah, it's insane that he went and did this. I just don't understand. And that is a huge loss for his team because he is a talented player. I don't really know what he's been up to lately, but he was in the past, so I assume that he's a big part of that team.
I know he went to China and basically fell off the rails. He was not very productive in China, but he's back, I think, with Boca in Argentina, and I think, he's doing fairly well for them. But now, it's the middle of the season. Matt, what are your thoughts upon hearing this?
Well, yeah, as you said at first, it's the most Carlos Tevez thing. I'm trying to think, like, throughout his whole career, is like he had a problem at United, he had problems at City, he had problems in China.
I don't think he had any problems with Juve, but he was only there.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, he was only there for a year. That's what I was going to ask. Like, did he ever have anything at Juve? It's just like the most Carlos Tevez thing. And I love how he lied at first about how he got hurt. He told him I forget how he told him he got hurt, but then a couple of days later he was like, "Oh yeah, I got hurt playing at the jail," and it was just like, it's just absurd. And I think it's awesome for like the prisoners. It's like, that's not just playing with Carlos Tevez. Like, you're in jail for one reason or another, and those conditions might be tough. And then out of nowhere, like Carlos Tevez is just playing with you on the field. And I think that's just hilarious.
Yeah, and I think it's hilarious, obviously, for us who aren't Boca fans and who aren't, impacted by this really. But I just think it's a lack of professionalism from him in the middle of his season to be doing something like this. I get that he wants to visit his brother and wants to connect with them and do something nice for the prisoners. But for him to go all out and play, and not just juggle or something kind of less impact and risk, I think it's unprofessional from him. But again, everything he's done has made him into the world-class player that he is. And so taking that out of him, would he be the player that he is today? I don't know. So maybe this is stuff he has to do to be the player that he is, as ridiculous as that sounds. Christian, anything else you want to add in closing?
Well, I mean, I don't think his whole career should be summed up in the player he is today, but maybe the player that he used to be.
Fair enough. Matt, anything else you want to
add? Nah, I'm good.
All right, that brings us to the end of our second segment. You're going to hear a little bit more music, and we will be back to talk to you in our third segment. Talk to you soon. Bacon Nuts had something to say. I agree with the foreign derby matches, or derby matches. I personally attended last summer's United Real Madrid. So, hey man, do you think that from the foreign derby matches, do you like the idea of Liverpool versus United? Let us know in the comments section. Or are you saying you like more the Liverpool versus Barca, or big clubs that aren't necessarily from the same league? So. Let us know in the comment section.
What was Tevez doing with City when Pellegrini took over? Wasn't he just golfing?
He was just golfing.
In Argentina, just refused to go. Just I'm just not going to show up.
Yep. And at West Ham, he left and went to United, right? And he just had that too.
Wasn't it? Well, yeah, that wasn't approved or anything by everyone involved, and he just was I'm playing here.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, he's had stuff, throughout his whole career doing things like that.
And he went from United to City.
Yeah, he's a character. Games like Barca versus Liverpool. Okay, so I think Big and Nuts agrees with Matt and I, Christian. So you're just on an island by yourself. I would feel pretty alone if I was you.
Yeah, good thing I'm enough company for me.
Oh man, God damn! I wish we had that in our regular section, because I would put that. I
still could put it in there.
Nah, it'll be in an outtake. Believe me. I think so far leading contender for episode name so far is I Got Hurt Playing in Jail. That, and then the American pronunciation of Krakowiak, I think, is another one. Any thoughts there, guys, on other episode names so far?
That's a good one. I like the American name.
The American pronunciation. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to jump into our last segment here. I'm going to plug Fan Futsal and Soccer Tavern first, okay? I know. Just deal with it. What's going on? No, not what's going on. God damn it. We're already
What's going on, everybody?
I do that
again.
I know. When I do other videos, sometimes I do our normal intro for this, and yeah.
Wee woo.
Welcome. All right, that's enough giggling. Welcome back, everyone, to our third and final segment. Before we get into our topics, I want to give a couple quick plugs for projects that I'm working on right now. So Fan Futsal is a simplified fantasy soccer website I created. I'm the founder of. We have you select 5 clubs instead of 8 to 11 individual players. Our scoring is really simplified as well. So we do all the major European leagues as well as Liga MX and MLS. So go check that out at fanfutsal, FANFUTSAL.com. Also, I have another YouTube channel called the Soccer Tavern YouTube channel, where we're making videos about the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. So right now we're making a bunch of videos about the history of Premier League clubs. We're about 14 or 15 in, 12, I think about 14 in. So coming up this week, we have Stoke City and Swansea going to be released, and going in alphabetical order. So we have all the clubs before that on the channel. So go check that out for me. I would greatly appreciate it. With that, let's get into our final couple topics here. So U.S. played Paraguay last week, and Paraguay? Yeah, played Paraguay last week. And Dave Sarachan, the interim manager for the U.S., U.S. won the game 1-0, but Sarachan basically only used 2 subs and then saved a couple for the last couple subs at the end in kind of meaningless time. Matt, what were your thoughts upon, I don't know if you watched the match and, your thoughts here, but Sarachan basically playing to almost win the match when this is somewhat of a meaningless friendly. You have a lot of new players in camp. Should he have done something differently as far as managing the team? What do you think?
I watched the highlights of the game. I missed the game, so I don't know how the flow was going. I just only saw the highlights, but from what I saw, there was a couple players that were, not necessarily regulars that were still being given chance to play. And I think it's tough for him, especially as an interim manager. And I'm sure he wants the job, But like, so you have to perform. Like at that level, you only get a couple games. Like you have to win when you're given the opportunity. But you also, like U.S. soccer needs to go in a whole new direction from the disaster that just happened of us not qualifying for the World Cup and like having to invest in youth. But like, if he doesn't win, he doesn't get the chance to look at the youth.
So I don't fully understand.
Sorry. So I thought he did what he had to do. We won the game. So I'm not mad at him for it. And I also thought, like, who was the guy that got the penalty? Really fast midfielder.
Tyler Adams.
Yeah. The penalty. Yeah, like I've almost never seen him in the U.S. kit before. So I thought that was, a huge opportunity. And it seemed like he was playing well. So, yeah, I was fine.
Yeah, I really like Tyler Adams. I think he's got a really bright future. But Christian, your thoughts on Sarachan, how he managed the match? Do you understand where he's coming from? Should he be doing things differently? What do you think?
I have no problem with what he did. He did what he thought was best to win the game, and I understand that right now that's not all that U.S. soccer needs. We don't need to just be focusing on winning, but it is his job to get results. And even though he's an interim manager, right now that's what he has to focus on. We still have a long time before we have to compete at that level again. And right now, he's just trying to get a group of people that have some chemistry, can build that relationship with each other on the field. And the longer that they get real game time together, the better it's going to look. And it's going to be a long-term project to get a lot of these youth players in, to rotate a lot of players in and see how they fit in. But he needs to build a core of group together right now. I understand he might not be the one who's going to be doing it, but he has to do everything in his power that he thinks is right for his future as well as the team's. And that's what he did.
So I agree with pieces of what you're saying, but not completely. So I don't think it's his responsibility to build a core because ultimately I don't think he's going to be there. What I do like is he has to do what's best for him. And at the national team level, that is what should be done. They're not there to develop players. They shouldn't be there to, try to train players. They should be there to get the best players that they could possibly select and mold them and fit them into a way to perform at the highest level. And so initially when I was watching the match, I was pulling my hair out, going a little crazy that he wasn't getting other people into the game and better opportunities. But after reading the article we'll link to in the show notes, I thought that they gave a really interesting, perspective on basically at the national team level, it's a meritocracy and you shouldn't give people opportunities just because we didn't qualify for the World Cup and just because they're new in camp. They need to earn that. And so after reading the article, my perspective changed a bit. And I think I agree with the way he approached it. And he didn't just make subs because it was a meaningless friendly. He basically, said that these people didn't perform as well in training throughout the week. And so they didn't earn opportunity for minutes. And the people that were on the field did earn the opportunity to continue playing. So that's kind of where I stand on all of that. Matt, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I was thinking, Jurgen Klinsmann was probably our best coach ever, and we didn't even really let him tinker around the lineup, and it's just frustrating to see that. And I know he's German, and we don't have the flexibility to do that like Germany does. Germany just sent an entire B/C team to the Confederations Cup and won. I don't think we have that opportunity.
Fair enough. Christian, anything else you want to add in closing?
No.
All right, but Matt, that actually brings up a good point. So Bacon Nuts actually just went in with another question that he had along that exact topic. So he said, basically, do you think Mexico should start a B squad against Germany and rest players in the first game of the World Cup so to have a fresher team for when they play their other group stage games? So I think that's a really interesting kind of question and kind of fits along, Matt, with what you were just saying. Christian, your thoughts there?
No. I think that they should try and win every game that they can possibly win. You saw in the second game of the last World Cup, they tied against, was it Nigeria? It was one of the African countries. I forget who it was. Was it Nigeria?
Ghana? Did Germany?
It was Ghana. It was Ghana.
Yeah, because it was in the U.S. group.
Yeah. They tied 2-2, and you never know when you're going to be able to catch Germany on a bad day. So you might as well throw your best players out there and get a chance to be the number one seed and hopefully get a better part of the bracket when the knockout stage comes along.
Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, agreeing with that. Dempsey almost tied it up for us against Germany at the end, the 90th minute. In the World Cup, you have to play you have to win every game. Nothing's guaranteed in the World Cup, so I think that wouldn't necessarily work for that tournament. You can't just like give up a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree too, but I wanted to throw it in because since you kind of already brought up that topic. So let's talk about the last thing we wanted to talk about as far as our set topics here. Two refs from the U.S. were selected for the World Cup. Only country in the world that had two refs selected for the World Cup. They were Mark Geiger and Jair Marufo. Matt, thoughts upon the U.S. getting these guys into the World Cup? Do you have any other thoughts about I don't know, refs from other places or just anything there?
Well, Geiger he's becoming like a high profile referee like in the world stage now. So I mean that makes sense. I don't know the other guy necessarily, so I hope he's good. And I think what you said with the England, Scottish, and Wales, right? Those three, like how they have no refs. I don't necessarily think like soccer countries develop the best refs. I think best refs, like it's like a pretty specific job that doesn't necessarily require all the soccer knowledge. You just kind of have to be like strong with your decisions. You need to know the rules, and I think they can come from anywhere. So I don't think it's necessarily a knock on England, Scotland, or Wales. It's just kind of what happened this World Cup. So I don't think it's necessarily bad for those countries, but I think it's awesome for the U.S. Just being like more present, on a world stage of soccer.
Yeah, I find it really interesting and funny that these two specifically were selected because if you follow MLS, and I follow it pretty detailed, like these guys oftentimes get a lot of slack or flack from fans as being not the greatest refs. And, it's just funny that they were selected for the World Cup. And it's just, fans' perspectives are sometimes so warped and things like that. So, Christian, what were your thoughts upon hearing them selected?
Well, pretty much any time that I see Mark Geiger, I'm part of a fan group that chants "fuck Mark Geiger" every time. So that's pretty much my memory of him. I feel like every referee gets that type of treatment though during every single game. It doesn't really matter. So it's tough to be a referee, and to have two from the U.S. is amazing. That really rarely happens that you get that. And for England and the other British countries to not have any representation is a little surprising, but at the end of the day, we watch a lot of those games and they haven't been at the highest level. And none of them have any use for VAR yet. They haven't used it at all. So I think that's a big impact on why they're not selected, because they have not used the technology that's going to be used at the World Cup. Yes, there's going to be training for it and all that, but they haven't been at the highest level. And every time I watch an English game, I feel like there are clear mistakes being made. And that could be said about a lot of games, but there I feel like it happens more often. And for the U.S. to have it is amazing, because it might show, okay, there's at least something good coming out of America, even though there's no U.S. team in the World Cup. They are still building, and they're producing at some type of level in the soccer world. And just to disagree a little bit with what Matt said, I feel like you do have to come from a country that has some type of soccer knowledge, and you have to have an understanding for the flow of the game as a referee, because if you don't and you just follow the rules, it's not going to be good refereeing, and the game's going to be completely broken up, and you have to have that basic knowledge.
I agree with that piece, Matt. Christian.
Yeah, I agree. You need the basic knowledge, but you can have basic knowledge of soccer from anywhere. Like you could be from any country in the world and watch the Premier League and just start like how Dave follows the MLS like so detailed. You can watch any league so detailed, and I think you could be that from anywhere in the world.
Yes. Yeah, but you need to make a commitment to following that league and to being in it, because there are nuance. It's not just you can have the basics. You do need to make a commitment. So I kind of agree with Christian there. You both touched on this, and this is what I wanted to get to in our next section. So on Twitter, we asked for people's questions they wanted us to talk about this week, and at World Hotspur, who's got a Tottenham blog, so go check them out. But they sent in a listener question that said, "Do you find it odd no referees from England, Scotland, and Wales were selected for the World Cup?" Matt touched on that a little bit. But the other piece of it, which Christian touched on a little bit, is does VAR have anything to do with the referee selections? And I'm just going to add a slight tweak onto that. Or do you think VAR should have anything to do with the ref selection? So, Matt, do you want to talk about VAR stuff, since you already kind of touched on Scotland-Wales thing?
Yeah, I guess you would feel more comfortable with referees that have experienced VAR and So yeah, I think it does influence.
Okay, Christian, thoughts on you kind of touched on some of the other stuff too, but any other thoughts there on those questions?
I think VAR plays a huge impact on the referee selection because you need experienced referees at this stage. This is the tournament, the show for all of soccer, and you need the referees to be performing at the highest level with the experience of all the new technology and everything going into it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. If they're, and they are going with VAR, I don't think they should be going with VAR because I don't think it's ready. I think that they need people from countries that have experience with VAR. So, I agree with it from that perspective. The other listener question we got from the Lads podcast, who we've had on, those guys are great, Martin and Kevin, Lads _ podcast. They asked one serious question and two silly questions, which is pretty on brand for them. So let's start with the serious question. Can Brazil win the World Cup without Neymar? Christian, thoughts?
No, absolutely not. That's all I have to say on that. No way.
Matt?
Yes.
And I actually agree too.
Yeah, I think they could be one of the favorites. I mean, with Neymar, I think they are maybe the best team, but I think they're among the favorites regardless.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, you need difference makers on your team, and having the third best player in the world would absolutely be a difference maker. But they have incredible talent on that team, and I think Coutinho, Willian, Firmino, or whoever would step up in the place of Neymar, because those three possibly could not be starting with Neymar in the lineup. So, I think it would be tough, but I still think they can. I don't think that they can't. Christian, any rebuttal or anything, or are you just sticking with your no?
Look what happened when I know it's a different team, but when Neymar is just out of any
Thiago
side,
Silva was
the
out.
team is
I don't want to hear it.
What?
I said Thiago Silva was out. That was the reason why they lost in the last World Cup.
That was definitely not what I was going to say. I was going to say PSG lost to Real Madrid because they had nothing. Like, you take a player of that quality, he is a difference maker.
Wasn't he there the first leg?
This time, not the second leg. They literally looked completely lost in attack. They had no option. And that is a team with a lot of quality on it, regardless, similar to Brazil. He is a difference maker, and you need that on any team if you're going to win.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's talk about the two silly questions that they asked now. So how many pies could Big Sam and Wayne Shaw? Wayne Shaw is the keeper for, oh God, what the hell team was that? He was the goalkeeper. He was like a 45-year-old goalkeeper.
Is this Swindon?
A little bit hefty. I don't think it was Swindon, but he was in the FA Cup last year. It was a ridiculous kind of story. How many could they eat in one sitting? Answer it however the heck you want, combined, individually. Christian, thoughts?
I'm gonna say in one sitting, I guess is what we're gonna guess here.
That was the question.
Was it? Okay, is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even really hear. That's real tough. I mean,
just pick a number.
How would I know? You don't know how the size of pies. I don't know how this.
Let's say it is a 3-inch diameter pie. I don't know. Let's just say
that. Jeez. Oh man.
Yeah. Like this way. Diameter.
18.
It's not diameter.
Okay. That's diameter. That's circumference. I'm talking about side to side.
Yeah, that's diameter. You said diameter. I don't know. There's hand movements.
How many pies? How many pies, man?
All right, I think Big Sam can throw down 6. And going Wayne Shaw, I think he could do 8. So I'm going 14 between them.
That is so freaking weird. That was exactly what I was going to say. Like, person, too. I thought Sam could 6 and Wayne 8. I can't believe you just said that. And then who has a better receding hairline, LeBron or Wayne Rooney? Matt?
LeBron.
Christian?
It's LeBron. Anything with LeBron, it's LeBron.
Christian?
I mean, LeBron right now, yeah. Wayne Rooney got that whole hair transplant, but yeah, LeBron right now.
I will agree with all that, guys. Anything else you wanted to add on any of these topics or something else, Christian?
Nah.
Matt?
Spiral.
Okay, I will. I'll throw out two things. We'll link to him in the show notes. Neil Warnock is an absolute hustler. He took his team to go bowling, and he said, "Hey, everybody, throw some money in the pot, and we'll just see whoever wins takes the money." And then he busted out like bowling shoes. He had his own shirt, own ball, and bowled like 250 and just crushed everybody. Stole the money. And then also Norwegian sailors and scientists were playing on an iceberg. It looked really freaking cool. We'll link to that picture in the show notes. Matt, last thought here. Final score, Liverpool City this week?
Of this? Okay, 3-1 City.
At Anfield?
Yeah.
Okay. Christian?
I am going to go 3-1 other way, Liverpool.
I'll go with Christian as well. Christian, want to recap our trivia question and we'll give our guesses?
Yes, the trivia question this week is what was the aggregate score in a Premier League season between two teams, so home and away games? What was the aggregate score? It happened twice.
The highest aggregate score. Matt, you want to give your guess?
Okay, so I know there's been a couple bad beatings, so I'm thinking over 2 legs. I'm gonna go 14. No, hold up, rewind. 12-1.
Okay, I'm gonna say 11-2.
12-1 is correct.
God damn it. Matt is on fire today. Who was it,
Would
Chris?
you like to know what games they were? Okay,
yes,
so
please.
Blackburn beating Nottingham Forest in the 95-96 season, 7-0 and 5-1 in the return
Would not
leg.
have guessed that one.
Well, yeah, it was Alan Shearer back then.
Mm-hmm.
And Tottenham beating Wigan 9-1 at home in the 2009 game, and then in 2010 beat them 3-0 away.
Jeez. Wow. That was good. Good trivia question. Thank you for getting that this week.
Oh, yeah, fun fact. That was the game Jermaine Defoe scored that record 5 goals in one game.
Wow, another fun fact. Christian's just full of them. Everybody's on fire today. Loving it, guys. All right, with that brings us to the end of the podcast. You can check out all of the stories we discussed here. They'll be in the show notes, and we'll also tweet them out from our Bros Talking Soccer Twitter handle, which is at BT Soccer Pod. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. We have a website, brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com, where you can read about us, check out past episodes, and so much more. Finally, we record this thing live on YouTube. Shout out Bacon Nuts, the YouTube user who was sending us comments during this recording. Come join us. You can send in your comments. We'll try to address them as we record this thing and, just interact live. We would love that. With that brings us to the end of yet another podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Christian and Matt, thank you guys for being here. And we will talk to you all next week. See you, everyone.
You'll never walk alone.
There you go.
Trust the process.
Happy Easter, everyone. Sorry I didn't say that earlier. I hope everybody is just having a wonderful Easter.
Happy Passover to all the rest of you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Christian, for adding that. I did not. Yes,
Judaism isn't the biggest religion.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Well, just by a numbers perspective?
Percentage. Yeah, by numbers perspective, the odds that somebody's celebrating Passover is much smaller than probably something else.
All right. Before we get in trouble for saying something stupid, I'm going to cut off the YouTube viewer. Thank you, everybody who's watching on YouTube. We'll talk to you, everyone, next week.